Weekly Renewal is brought to you by Calvo Select Care.
Half a day, I'm Claire Calvo, bringing you your weekly renewal for part 2 with Melanie K. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Claire. It's great to be here.
Can you share some things that anyone could do on their own, without coming to a class or whatnot, just what they could do on their own to hone in their own innate power and forces of self-healing?
That's right. Yeah, I think somatic tracking, what does that mean? It means, people call it meditation, but I think there's so many different forms of meditation. You can get really bogged down, you can get really confused. So the most simple way to actually have a huge impact is to close your eyes and just do a body scan. Find out where those places of tension are. Find out where those places where you don't want to go into, the places you want to avoid and step away from. That's the most important places to focus on and the most important places to be. So if you can have the courage, and it takes courage.
Yes.
Cur is like the Latin word for heart. Like it takes a heart opening and it takes compassion to actually sit with yourself in those places of discomfort and the place where you feel stagnation or the place where you feel tension, and actually be curious and open-minded and childlike in your inner perception of yourself and just start to perceive.
I'm so glad you said that. Be curious, because that is something I think, we get a certain age or we get to a certain degree or whatnot, profession, we're like, I got it, I have everything I need to know, but we're constantly learning and evolving and growing, and there's so much more to learn. And by staying curious, we stay open.
Yeah.
And there's just so much more to, like, even just me taking your workshop and your classes this past week, it was mind-blowing. It really was incredible to actually just feel the subtlety of prana, doing the breath work, doing the visualization, and how I was having sinus issues, and within one session, I'm like, wow, that really cleared up. So it was taking my practice to a deeper level. And because Kundalini Akhanda yoga is very different from the practice that I have studied over the past 20 years, which is more of the Ashtanga lineage, right, of vinyasa coming from Ashtanga. So
yes.
Can you also share a little bit about that, since we have 1 and 2 segments? Yeah. Share a little bit about your practice and how you've been instructed and also learning down that lineage of yoga.
Yeah, I met this beautiful instructor. What I loved about Yoga Rishi Vishvakhetu and the Akhanda yoga practice is that he is bringing the classical traditional forms of yoga from the Vedas and bringing it into not only disciplined practice, but a joyful practice. So his major thing is happiness is your birthright. So all these practices should be guiding you and aiming you towards a deeper practice of joy and happiness. And that's what I just loved so much about working with him, and I continue to study with him and his institute. So everything from all the 8 limbs of yoga, meditation, pranayama, yogic wisdom, taking your withdrawal of senses, and the asana just being one aspect of these 8 limbs of yoga, right? So using all of those practices and finding deeper awareness of self. And yoga is really about the yoking, the integration of self. So it's about inquiry and yourself being your own little scientist in this 3-dimensional realm and playing with all the forces that we have available to us. This is our playground right now. We're so lucky to be here on Earth.
Absolutely.
We're so lucky to be able to play out, our soul's evolution here on planets.
And I feel like that's what it is, right? Whether we're on the mat or off the mat, that's what it's about, for sure.
Every relationship, every moment you take to tune in and actually check in with self, you're doing a huge thing for yourself, your surroundings, your relations, and the planet.
Yeah. So. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one thing that I don't think too many people really take into consideration, that what we do for ourselves, even if it is our own personal practice, it emanates, and it's not just affecting you and those people. There is this entanglement, and it affects the greater collective. So, is there anything you want to share before we close?
Oh no, I'm just so grateful to be here, and I just thank you for giving us a platform to be able to share and open people's minds to what's possible in this earth walk we're on.
Very important. Thank you for your services.
Yeah.
And thank you all. I'll see you next time on your weekly renewal.
Weekly Renewal is brought to you by Calvo Select Care.